good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome back once again to Fat Cat Collections. And today, I'm excited to share with you guys a great camera I just picked up. This is from Amazon, and this is a camera, again, this is kind of a no-name brand. I haven't heard of this company before, but it's called Besdersec. Besdersec or Besdersec, check it out. A lot of these Amazon brands, you know, these are all Chinese companies, so a lot of times the brand names are just really kind of random. Sometimes I never know how to pronounce them, and a lot of times the companies don't know either. So I will say that you get a lot of camera, a lot of bang for your buck. I've been messing with this thing since I just got it in the mail today. Fully featured. I love this camera. I've been wanting something. You guys know that I like to layer my security, and I think with any protocol, when it comes to security, you should layer your security. And I've talked about that in many different videos. And one of the things I wanted to add to my home, even though I have a lot of cameras that check pretty much the entire perimeter of my property and on the inside of my house, you know, it's a good, you know, you may not have to go overboard like I've gone, but it's a great tool to have just for your own peace of mind. Having something like this, I've been waiting for these to come down in price, and this thing I picked up for about 39 bucks. Incredible. I'll put a link in the description. So what do you get with this thing? So remember when I talk about people who want to add smart home tech, you're going to run into problems when it comes to Wi-Fi signal strength, traffic on your network, and you're going to run into signal strength. I mean, that's one of the biggest issues you have with adding anything to the outside. One thing I really like about this, now you may be saying, well, it's a much bigger camera than a lot of the smaller ones. It is, but if you put this somewhere discreetly, maybe on your white trim, if you have white trim on your house, it's going to blend right in. If you have a business, this is fantastic as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit again about the features right off the Amazon listing. I encourage you, like with any of my videos, just to click the link in the description and check out a little bit more about the product and just read about it and see if it's going to work for your wants and needs. Again, when I talked about Wi-Fi signal, a lot of cameras you're going to get for the outside, a lot of the newer ones coming out, you're going to find the big brick and mortar stores don't have antennas. They have antennas, but they're very small built-in antennas. And remember, you can have the best Wi-Fi signal strength. Remember when you use like a Wi-Fi meter, like on your cell phone or one of the apps that test your Wi-Fi strength, that's a good tool to use, but remember, you're only testing Wi-Fi signal strength with that phone, with your phone. And that signal is based on the antenna strength of your phone. So it's not a perfect indicator of what kind of signal strength you're going to get with devices that have little tiny antennas. And I can tell you, a lot of the cameras that I've taken apart and used to change the batteries or put a card in them, whatever the case may be, the antennas are really tiny. So you either have to get signal outside your house with a Wi-Fi outdoor access point, or if you're going to hope that the signal will penetrate. And I can tell you, you could have the best router in the world. Unless you have it right next to the wall, you're going to lose a lot of signal, or you have an outdoor access point. So in my case, what I've done for anything on the front side of my house that's camera related, I put one extra access point on a different SSID that projects out to the front of my house. And I did that with basically an in-wall cabinet I had in the front of my house. I put it right up against the wall, so most of that signal is being projected outside the house. Now, even with that, your wall, your insulation, your coating, your siding, all that has a huge effect on Wi-Fi. I don't care what you're using, it does. So it's great to have a device that has antennas, and this has two high-gain antennas on it. So this is going to get great signal strength. One of the biggest flaws with cameras is the lack of ability to really get a good signal. And remember, again, even using a phone to test that Wi-Fi signal strength, you might test it and say, yep, oh, this is great, good signal here. Your device still has to communicate back, and it's all dependent upon the antenna it has. So this two high gain antennas that are adjustable. Again, you're gonna have to play with the adjustment and see which is the best orientation. If you have your Wi-Fi router, in my case, this would be kind of downstairs, so I'm gonna leave these straight up. If you were mounting this down low, and maybe you had, let's say I wanted to connect to my updoor Ubiquiti access point mounted on the ceiling, I might want to tip these down a little bit, because remember, this is a 360-degree rotation, but most of the signal is broadcast or received from around the side. So how you orient these is pretty important. So just kind of keep that in mind. You have the option to adjust these. Some of my cameras that I have downstairs, I adjust them all the way to the side. That signal is going to help to spread up, okay, or receive kind of up at that angle, right? So keep that in mind. Great 360-degree rotation, super bright LEDs and infrared LEDs. This will also function, and I haven't fine-tuned this quite yet, but it'll also function as a security light. So another great thing about security cameras is that, remember, this isn't NASA stuff. There are NSA gear. This is affordable entry-level gear. A real issue that I have or a lot of cameras have at night, is that there is, you know, they're hard to see at night. You know, if somebody's potentially going to look around your house and maybe they're looking for cameras, you might see the infrared glow, but a lot of them really don't stand out. Something like this is a real deterrent. Somebody walks up, it's going to function like a motion sensor light as well, broadcast some of that light. It's not going to be as bright as, let's say, some of your halogen lights or some of your, you know, outdoor motion sensor dusk to dawn lights that are designed to really illuminate, but you're going to get some illumination. It's going to be triggered, and at least a potential perpetrator or a potential, you know, thief or whatever, whoever may be coming up to your property will at least have a visual deterrent to say, oh, you know, what is that just kicked on? And they'll notice it. You know, they'll just bring attention to this. So that's great that it has that. Another cool thing is that they give you a really long cord, which you could get a longer one if you needed. It's your standard kind of I think it's like a 3.5 millimeter plug or some kind, I forget exactly what you call this, but standard power plug. And they give you the transformer. I can tell you a lot of cameras that I've seen had the transformer built into like a large plug. You just plug right in. It gets in the way of a lot of outdoor outlets. This is great. You can wall mount this, and this is really simple. You can plug it right in and have like an open or active use outlet cover to protect these parts here, or the cord itself. Then this plugs in. You can staple it. Only downside, I wish they would have made this white. Most houses have white trim. I know that's not, you know, completely a set rule in stone, but a lot of houses have white trim, white gutters. White would have been a much better color to be able to hide this, but you can just use a used staple gun and kind of tack this, and I've always taken stuff like this, just add a little coat of paint on it. Because wires are really messy. We want to manage our cables correctly so they don't really stand out. Now, if you're going to wire this thing up to, you know, maybe an existing box right next to it, again, depending on your situation, it might be different than mine. So I'm always pretty good at what I do is with a lot of these things is when I mount stuff that has a wire, I'll kind of hide the wire discreetly behind like the gutter. Kind of tack it back, zip tie it with some white ties if I have to. So at least the main cord is white. You can actually use this hardwired if you want. This supports standard LAN connection or Ethernet connection. If you don't want to use the Wi-Fi, it's fantastic. I always recommend hardwiring if you can. If you self-contracted a house and you're working on building your house and you have, I always recommend put LAN boxes or Wi-Fi boxes in your soffits so you have somewhere to plug in. You can do that with this. You do get a weatherproof cover that's downstairs at the moment that'll protect this from water. Only downside to this, and I've seen this in a lot of them, that the power plug doesn't have any kind of weatherproof connection. So what I like to do with stuff like this is just kind of wrap it with a little electrical tape just to help to keep the water out if you get a little splashing or whatever. Again, try to, you know, most of the time where we mount these things, you're going to have some protection from your overhang. So again, it depends on where you're mounting it. Your house might be different. You have a micro SD card slot on the bottom and your reset plug protected by this nice kind of rubberized plug, and that's really about it. I mean, it's a great camera. I am very happy with it. The speaker in this thing is fantastic. So a lot of cameras I've tested, yeah, you have two-way audio, but really hard for anybody to hear you through the thing unless they're right next to it. You can't really give somebody a warning. With this is going to be able to really project sound out, I'd say past 25 feet based on the volume that I've heard coming out of this thing already. So great speaker, good way to communicate. Somebody comes up to your lawn, you can be like, yep, get lost, right? So a little bit more about it. It's a 1080p cam. They call this their Pro HD 3 megapixel plus 32 gig SD. Cool thing about this, it comes with the SD card. So already you're getting a great value. So it's 50 bucks. There was a coupon on it the other day. Keep checking. That will probably come back. But for $49.99 shipped to your door, it's a great camera. It does get 4.5 star ratings on Amazon, which is great. And again, pan tilt outdoor surveillance camera. This is right off the listing. So what else do you get? I'm just going to read you, and I encourage you to check the listing. It is ONVIF, I believe it's called OnVIF compatible. So if you're using kind of a desktop software, hooking this up in more of an elaborate fashion, which when I say that, I've used some of the free programs out there and even some of the paid security surveillance programs, and you really have to have some networking skill to set some of this stuff up. They're not the easiest thing to set up based on the IP addresses. That's kind of how you set up. Again, I'm really a novice when it comes to some of that security gear, but if you want to have a desktop running all the time and use that rather than the app, you can use this with OnVIF. I have tested other cameras with that. I just prefer using the app for the most part because most of my cameras, like Zomato cameras and other brands, they're not OnVIF compatible. So just depends on what you're building. A lot of people who buy stuff like this want it to be kind of easy, set it and forget it kind of thing. So what's nice about this is that you also have the app fully featured. You can control volume, you can control the lights, you can control the pan, tilt, the zoom, everything. It's a very well featured app, and a lot of them don't do a lot. I mean, a lot of them are very basic, and I mean, there's some apps I've tested. You don't have the ability to really change anything. With this, you have a lot of features, and you have motion tracking. So let's say you put this somewhere where you don't get a lot of traffic. Maybe, like for instance, when I add one to my backyard, any motion that happens back there, this will pinpoint on it and follow it and keep an eye on it, like as if somebody's watching it. So another great deterrent. If somebody walks onto your property and sees the camera suddenly following them, they might think twice about doing anything. So it's a great deterrent. A little bit more about the camera. Has dual 3 dB high gain Wi-Fi antennas, 350 degree horizontal and 110 degree vertical rotation. You have a huge field of view. Again, motion detection with light and sound alarm. I haven't messed around too much with that yet, but I believe you can trigger this thing that if you do have motion, it'll give an audible alarm. I like to turn that kind of stuff off because I have noticed a lot of cameras, depending on your landscape and your property, you know, you don't want this thing going off disturbing people all the time. You don't want something going off that's going to be constantly like, oh, it's, you know, a crying wolf. You know what I mean? So you want it to work when it works. I'd much rather get the push notification on my phone and check it. With the SD card, it's constantly recording. You do have a cloud service with this too. You can sign up for it. They do give you, I think it's a couple weeks or a month of free cloud recording. It's always a good idea. What else? It says it'll work with most third-party software, which is like Blue Iris is one of them, and I Spy. I've used those brands before. It says here, if you're having problem linking to third-party software and the NVR, please contact customer service. So I haven't contacted them yet, but we'll have to see if I decide to go that route, what kind of service we're going to get. Again, Pro 3 megapixel, Pro HD, colorful night vision. I don't think that means night vision in color. I don't think it does. I believe it has infrared LEDs, but I have to come back and really kind of test this. Again, I just mounted this and took it down to share it with you guys. I am seeing on here that it doesn't say that it has infrared, but when I look at the lights on this thing here, I would say that it does, but it may not. And sometimes some of these cameras, when it comes down to having the infrared, some of them will have infrared or have LEDs. So if this camera only has LEDs and non-infrared, which I'm kind of thinking, nope, there it is. Okay, a little confusing there. So it says here, built-in 4-piece effective array of infrared LEDs and 4 white LEDs. So I'm not sure yet. I'll have to test that, and I'll come back and re-record again. Nice thing about buying through Amazon. If you have any issues, you can usually return it. So usually with cameras that have LEDs, you have the option to turn those on or off. Because I don't really see the point if you have LEDs popping on at night when you're in infrared mode. You will, in most cases, have the infrared turned off. But again, I'll really have to put this to the test when it gets dark, and I will come back and, as always, re-record and let you guys know my pros and cons. Again, these are kind of like your initial unboxing videos, okay? So just kind of bear with me on this. I always come back and re-record stuff. And that's really about it. Other than that, it's pretty standard when it comes to, you know, weather resistance and the IP66 weatherproofing. And pretty much it's what you're going to get out of most cameras. Most of the stuff coming out nowadays is all pretty similar across the board. What I've noticed the biggest difference is in the apps, you know, and I will say I'm pretty impressed with the app so far, and the fact that it has the dual antennas. Wi-Fi signal strength is going to be one of your biggest hurdles when mounting any Wi-Fi device outside. So I'm going to go finish setting this up, and I'll come back. And what I'm going to do is when I re-review this camera, I'm going to come back and just put a link in the description. I'll pin it to the top of the comment section where you can see my updated video on a little bit more, I guess a little bit more involved review of the pros and if there are any cons of this camera. So stay tuned for more, guys. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, subscribe to the channel. As always, guys, have a good day. Take care.